God for how it feels to chase a dream. And thank God for boxes of first CD.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Daylight Savings Day. How many of y'all forgot and you just woke up whenever your phone went off? Anybody? I had no idea, but I woke up tired and I was like, something's not right today. And on my drive in is when I realized we lost an hour. So good thing your phone does it for you though, or I wouldn't be here. There's that. But welcome to church. Grateful y'all are with us. My name is Sammer. If we haven't gotten the opportunity to meet, and I get to serve here as our lead pastor, and grateful you're with us. If you're joining us online, welcome. Today we are going to be continuing a series that we kicked off last week called Inflection Point with Joel Thomas. So excited to jump into that. But a couple things coming up that I want to fill you in on, and both of these things are on the seat back in front of you. Scan the QR, you can get all this. The QR will give you all the information. But for any of our K through 5 families, we have kids stuff coming up. And if you've never been to a kids stuff is a show that you experience together that makes your family better. It's a live experience here in the room. And this particular kids stuff is going to be exciting because it's going to be themed around a silent disco. And if you've ever done a silent disco with your kids, you know it is a blast. And if you haven't, you are in for a treat. I already can't wait to bring my kids to this. It's going to be awesome. So it's happening March 21st at 6 p.m. here at Woodstock City. It is totally free. Just register, let us know that you're coming so we can best plan and prepare for you. And maybe this one more than any that we've ever had. If you've got a family or a K through 5 a family friend that you've wanted to introduce to our church, but Sunday's maybe too big of a first step, what better way than a family-friendly silent disco? And so it's going to be a blast, and we look forward to seeing you guys at Kids Stuff on March the 21st. And then second, if you have ever desired to want to go a little bit deeper on a theological topic or dig a little bit deeper into a Bible in a little bit more of a Bible study fashion, then I want to tell you about something we got coming up called Woodstock City U. Woodstock City U is an environment we created to do just that, to spend a little bit of extra time to dive deeper into particular topics. And the Woodstock City U that we have coming up is about how to read the Bible well. The Bible is an intimidating prospect for any of us. And so if you've ever wanted some more tools to be able to handle it with more confidence, to be able to dig into it in your own time, and so that it's easy to you come here on Sunday and you hear somebody talk about it and it seems so clear, then you go back home and the next morning you flip open in your kitchen table and you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. We want to help. So how to read the Bible is going to give you tools and confidence to navigate the scriptures on your own. So that Woodstock City U is kicking off the week of March 18th, coming up here in just a couple of weeks. And the cool thing about Woodstock City U, we want to make it as convenient for any of you to attend as possible. So this particular Woodstock City U, it spans 2 weeks, okay? So 2 classes on how to read the Bible well. And during the week, we have a Wednesday evening option and a Thursday morning option. So whichever is most convenient for your schedule, whether it be Wednesday evening or Thursday morning, you can attend that for 2 weeks. So help my parents join us. It'll be $10. Walk away with a resource and some refreshments to make it a great experience. So that kicks off the week of Wednesday, March 18th, and it'll obviously meet that following morning on the 19th, Thursday. Well, same class, and then we'll do the same thing next week at 7 p.m. The evening and 10 a.m. on Thursday. But again, all that on the QR code. I hope you'll join us for Woodstock City U. That's all I got, though. We got Adeline and Clay here to lead us in some worship and singing. So why don't you stand as you're able, say good morning to somebody around you, and we will jump on in.
strong and I've witnessed it. You're constant, I've witnessed it. And I'm confident I'll see it again and again. You love and I've witnessed it. You heal and I've witnessed it. You save and I've witnessed it. And I'm confident I'll see it again and again. You're good and I've witnessed it. You're strong and I've witnessed it. You're constant, I've witnessed it. And I'm confident I'll see it again and again. You love and I've witnessed it. You heal and I've witnessed it. You save and I've witnessed it. And I'm confident I'll see it again and again. I've seen you breathe life within, so I'll pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. Your promises never fail. I've got stories I live to tell, so I'll pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. To the broken, I'll witness it. To the hurting, I'll witness it. To the lost, I will witness it. And I'll tell them what I've witnessed. To my family, I'll witness it. To my city, I'll witness it. To the nations, I'll witness it. And I'll tell them this. I'll tell them what I've witnessed.
So this is a song we just introduced this last week. Did you catch on? Let's sing it together.
What can I say? You're too good to be true. God, there's nobody like you. And all of the earth and heaven above, there is no one beside you. Lord, what can I do but offer all my praise to you? How great is the Lord our God? How wonderful His love. All praise to the Lord our God. We stand in awe of just how great you are. There's so much you've done. There's so much we've seen. And still there's no ending. Come, let us sing, rejoice and be glad. Lift up the King with all you have. And Lord, what can I do but offer my praise to you?
pray together. Lord, we thank you for that. We thank you that despite anything else in our lives right now that's competing for our attention and its greatness, it's competing for what we focus on, what we worry about, what we think about. I thank you that you are a God who is greater than all those things. And we can say that with confidence. We can say that with faith this morning and be comforted by it, be given hope by it, but also be empowered to live in the light of who you are at all times. And so we thank you for your son, Jesus. We thank you that he is indeed forever lifted high and forever to be praised. And it's in his name that we all pray. Amen. Go ahead and grab a seat.
So we talked about this last week, and for those who've been around, this isn't new to you, but we are at the halfway point of a generosity initiative that we kicked off across all 8 of our Atlanta area churches, and just last year. It's called Deeper, Wider, and we just asked the question, what could God do if he harnessed the collective generosity of all of our churches? And what could happen if we all took a deeper step of faith to make a wider impact? So every month, and especially in this season, as we're at that halfway point, we're super intentional to make sure that you're aware of all the things that are happening already because of your generosity. And there's a lot happening. A partner network all over the world, nationally and globally, but there's some incredible things happening here at Woodstock City, directly connected to the environments that you help us create and the ministries that get to function because of your generosity. And I want to share some cool, not everything that counts, you can count. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to put a number on everything, but whenever you can put a number on something significant, we want to do that because every name has a story. And over the course of the last year, we have seen an incredible number of baptisms from Upstreet, which is K through 5, into middle school, high school, and college. And it's actually kind of silly, and in a good way. In fact, just this past fall, our Inside Out ministry, they had, or our high school ministry called Inside Out, they had a baptism service where they baptized, I believe, 41 or 51 students in one night. And I actually want you to check out the screen and watch a quick little recap of that.
God, thank you that you are enough, that whenever we could not be enough, God, you are enough.
And this entire night is for these students to have a chance to be able to say, hey, let me tell you what it is that God has done.
Over the past 2 years, I've learned that God's love is endless, and it has completely changed my life. His sacrifice and his plan for me has helped me accept him into my heart and grow my faith through him and through others. Let me tell you, the same endless love that has transformed me is available to you.
So that was 51 students, isn't that amazing? And then here just next month, Inside Out has another baptism service coming up, and they're already at 30 students. And then Upstreet, our K through 5 environment, they just had their March baptism bash, and they baptized 16 kids. Transit, which is our middle school ministry in 2025, baptized 59 students. And by this summer of 26, they will have already baptized 20 that are already on the books. That also sounds weird. That are planned, already work in progress. And then our college ministry, the Living Room, they in 2025, they baptized 28 students. In 2026, they've already got 30 students that have expressed interest in being baptized. Isn't that amazing? And baptism, it's an outward expression of an inward change. It is publicly professing to the world that I've put my faith in Jesus and I want to do my best to follow him as best as I can. And here's what we believe here at our church, that following Jesus will change everything about you, putting your faith in him and following him with all that you are. And so what these baptisms represent it's not just a moment. They represent eternal shifts. They represent generational shifts. They represent life trajectories changing for these students. We talk all the time about our church being a faith for the next generation. And I just want you to know that you're helping us actually be that. That all these students are walking into school on Monday, on Tuesday, walking into the next year as they start high school, middle school, or college with a true north that is Jesus. And that is incredible. And I'm so, so grateful. Just as a dad of 4 kids, I'm so grateful. And this isn't in my notes, and I need to hurry up because I'm over. But yesterday morning, we do baby dedication. We don't do infant baptism, but we do baby dedication here at our church. And yesterday, this room had about 30 or 35 families in it that wanted to dedicate their child. And that just means them wanting to make a commitment to raise them up in the church and in the way of Jesus. And so from babies all the way to college, there are some incredible things happening, and I'm really, really grateful. And a big part of it, it's because of all that you're doing with Deeper Wider. So we mentioned this last week, but if you missed last week, this is a brand new vision guide for Deeper Wider. It's different from last year. It's got some new stats in it, for lack of a better term, some projects that have been happening, some new information now that we're at the midway point of Deeper Wider, new pictures. So definitely you can grab one of these if you missed it last week at guest services. And on the inside cover, Andy mentioned this as well, but there's that commitment card. Nothing to do with that yet. For those of you that made a commitment last year and you're continuing on with that commitment, there's a box there just to let us know that you plan to continue to do that, just so we can best prepare. For some of you, brand new, and as you hear about this over the next several weeks, it might be something that you're interested in being a part of. And then there are some of you that made a commitment last year, and for different circumstances, you feel led to increase that commitment. There's an opportunity to do there as well. But no matter what it is and where you are, we're really, really grateful to get to build up the church and be a part of something way bigger than ourselves and something that's going to outlive all of us. But with that, we are going to jump into part 2 of Inflection Point with Joel Thomas.
There's a moment in business, economics, and systems thinking that significant, often unexpected change begins. The moment when a new pattern begins to emerge, when something accelerates or slows. This moment is unrecognizable. It's not marked by headlines or announcements, though it's often triggered by a decision, a series of decisions, or the refusal to make a decision. Initially, nothing immediate or remarkable happens, but over time, the results are unmistakable. And that unremarkable point in time begins to leave its mark. This moment has a name.
Well, if you weren't with us last week, we celebrated the midpoint of our Deeper Wider initiative, and really people at all of our campuses, our Atlanta area campuses, have participated in this, and it's just so remarkable what's happened. If you weren't here, what's already happened is beyond what we thought would happen to this point. And if you weren't here again last week, you need to go back and check that out. Also, we've created a guide. There's a website. There's lots of information you can find out. And the thing that's so inspiring is how much wider impact we're already making through the deeper investment that we've made collectively throughout our churches. And so I just want to say thank you for those of you participating in that. We talked last week, though, about how for our church or for our organization, our network of churches, this served as sort of an inflection point in our church. And an inflection point, as you just saw, is sort of an unremarkable thing when it starts, but then it becomes something remarkable. It's actually in sort of business terms or economic terms or mathematic terms, it looks sort of like this. And it can be applied in a lot of different areas, but it indicates a moment, an event, a season when things changed and when they shifted, and you've experienced this. Another way to describe this is it's a tipping point, or it's a watershed moment, and it can be a positive or a negative thing. And the interesting thing about it is it's most often observed in hindsight, which is why this is where the point is. It seems like the turning point would be here or here, but what's actually happening at this point is this downward motion has begun to slow. and things have begun to shift. And this was actually the moment when things began to change, and this upward trend started here. And looking back, oftentimes in your life, you can see a point. You think of something that started or something that ended, that accelerated or changed, made some significant change in your life for better or for worse. The same thing happens on this chart over here, is this increase begins to slow, and there's a different inflection point over here where things began to slow and then took a downward turn, and some of you have experienced that in life. But these moments have happened personally, organizationally. They even happen culturally. December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery. And at first, it just seemed like another arrest, another situation. But it actually led to the Montgomery bus boycott, which actually lasted 381 days in the city of Montgomery. And it got national attention. And not only did it get national attention, it catapulted a young, little-known 26-year-old Baptist preacher onto the national stage and gave him a platform for the civil rights movement. Now, looking back, it's obvious now what happened here. No significant change at that moment, but it was a watershed moment. It was a tipping point. It was an inflection point for the civil rights movement in our country. And it wasn't apparent on the bus on that December day in 1955. But today, we look back, and so many look back and go, that was a moment when something shifted. And this happens for us personally. You've likely experienced it. You didn't know it in the moment, but when you think back to moments in your life, and looking back on certain moments in your life, you think you didn't know what was going on at the moment. But when you first met that person, and maybe it's a significant other, maybe it's the person who's your spouse today, maybe it's somebody who invested in you. You first met that person, or when you said yes to an opportunity, and it may have been an opportunity from a person that you met, and you took that opportunity. Or you stepped out and did something different. You stepped out and you went in a different direction. You stepped out on your own. And when you did this, things changed for better or for worse. Sometimes it launched you into a preferable future. And other times it led you to spiral. I mean, for me, I remember I was heading in a completely different direction in life, and I decided the year I graduated from college was the year the Olympics were happening in Atlanta, 1996. And I thought, when else in my life are the Olympics going to be happening in my home country, and I don't have anywhere else I have to be, I don't have anybody else I'm responsible for. I had a job that was sort of whenever I was ready to go start it, it was sort of on the horizon, and I thought, I'm going to move to Atlanta. I only knew one family. I didn't know anybody else. And I moved down here, and that summer, I went to a summer camp with the church I was volunteering in, and I met a guy named Louis Giglio. And I thought he was a great speaker, and he invited me to this Bible study in Atlanta that I showed up at, and I was from up north, so I thought 6 people in a circle with somebody with a guitar, and I walked into a place called 722. It was meeting at Dunwoody Baptist Church, and there was a huge crowd of people that were there, and I thought, okay, Bible study in the South is different, and I found North Point Community Church, and it completely changed the trajectory of my life. It was an inflection point for me, and inflection points can happen in almost any area of your life, in your career. It can happen for you professionally, personally, but there's one area of your life where an inflection point, when it happens, it impacts almost every area of our lives. And I've seen it over and over and over. And I'm not gonna bury the lead. I'm not gonna make you guess. Here's what it is. It's generosity. Generosity. Now, some of you I know are like, okay, I knew it was gonna be that. Well, congratulations, you're smarter than the rest. But here's the thing. Here's what I've discovered in life. In generosity in general, when embracing the true value of generosity, when you embrace what true generosity is about, it often becomes an inflection point. It's how things shifted for you, not just in your finances, but in your life. But before we get to that, and we're gonna look at a remarkable story today. Before we get to that, I just wanna ask the question, how would you define generosity? Now, I don't want you to pull out your phone. I just want you to think, if you were gonna come to a simple definition in your mind of generosity, what is it? I mean, we all know it when we see it, but what is it? How would you define generosity if you had to paraphrase it or describe it in simple terms? Maybe based on something you've seen or someone you think of. What epitomizes What personifies generosity? What is it that you would say when you go, that's it, that's generosity? Now, here's where I want to jump in. I want to talk about where it comes from. Before we get to specifically what it is, I want to talk about where it comes from. And most people think generosity is the result of, this is what most people believe. They believe generosity is the result of prosperity. And here's what that sounds like. If I had more, I would give more. You ever thought that? I'm not going to make you raise your hand because some of you won't, and then I make you lie in church and all that stuff. That would be bad. But we think this. We think, wow, if I had more, when I make more, when I get the promotion, when, at some point down the line, I want to be more generous. So we all think this. We think if I had more, I'd give more. But the truth is that's actually not true, and it's not true statistically. As a matter of fact, for over a decade, on IRS tax returns, we have data measuring decades of information. And here's what we found out, that people that make under $50,000 a year give about 3 to 5% of their income nationally. People that make less than $50,000. People that make between $100,000 and $200,000, they give 2 to 3% of their annual income to charities, to churches, to whatever. People that make over $1 million give 1 to 2% on average. Now, there's outliers, and you could point to somebody who's a billionaire and is given a lot of money, but on average, when you look across the landscape, this is the national average, and it's not just our nation. This is true in the world. The 2025 World Giving Report, and by the way, you can look up all this information online. Low-income countries, third world nations, low-income people that are countries that are, or nations that are categorized as low-income nations, they give about 1.5% of their gross national income. So the overall income of the country, the gross national income, they give about 1.45% to foreign aid, which is twice as generous as high-income nations, including ours, that give about 0.7% on average of their gross national income towards foreign aid. So what we think is not actually true. We think more, if I was more prosperous or people were more prosperous, they would be more generous, but that's not statistically true. And it's actually not even biblical. As a matter of fact, Solomon, who wrote the book of Proverbs, which is in the wisdom literature in the Old Testament, he says just the opposite. He doesn't say that prosperous people are generous. He says a generous person will prosper. A generous person is the person that prospers. Not prosperous people will be generous. Generosity is not the result of prosperity. Generosity is the pathway to prosperity. That's what he says. Solomon says, if you want to, and again, depends on how you define generosity, depends on how you define prosperity. But the writer of Proverbs, the wisdom literature, says generosity, it's the pathway to becoming prosperous, not the other way around. Now, I want to unpack a quick story. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And some of you are going to be like, that's one of your favorite stories in the Bible, but it's a really old story. It's in Genesis chapter 4, and if you know your Bible, you already know what that story is. But if you have a Bible with you, I'd love for you to open it, or you can turn. If you got the Bible app, you can look it up. I'll give you just a second to get there. But embedded in this story are 3 key elements of generosity. In fact, they're the 3 aspects, the specific aspects, and they involve giving from. That's the first part of generosity. Giving with, what we give from, what we give with, and what we give to. When you just think about generosity, that's what it involves. It involves giving from, giving with, and giving to. They're all in this story, and how and why embracing the value of generosity is an inflection point. How it becomes an inflection point for good or for bad in our lives. So here's the context. They're figuring out life's not ideal anymore. They're figuring out what living is like outside the garden. Adam and Eve are outside the Garden of Eden, and they begin a family, and they have 2 children. And first they have Cain. He's their first son. And then they have Abel. Genesis chapter 4, verse 3, it says this. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering. He brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. So Cain's a farmer and Abel's a shepherd, and we're introduced to them, and they're making sacrifices. Now, does anybody else think that's strange? I mean, you don't think it's strange maybe because you have too much information, but if this is the first time you're hearing the story, you're like, these are some of the first people on earth. Why are they making sacrifices? Where were they commanded to do this? I mean, where did they get this idea? Does anybody know this? really quiet. You guys should read your Bible. There's only 3 chapters before this, so I'll recover them real quick for you. The creation story, Genesis 1 and 2, it represents God creating an ideal in the world. And then when he got done creating all that, he said it was good. And the man and his wife, they were married and they were living together and they were naked. They were unashamed. Things were perfect. There was nothing between them. And God only had one rule. When God had everything the way he wanted it, there was only one rule. There was one tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He said, don't eat of that one tree. That's Genesis 1 and 2. Genesis chapter 3, things change. This is known as the fall. They disobey. They don't follow the one rule that God gave them that was for their protection. It was for it was in their best interest. And what happened was when they disobeyed God, trust was broken. Sin entered the world, and the ideal was lost. Their eyes were open to the fact that they were naked, and they covered up, and they hide. They sinned. They realized what they had done, and they cover up, and they hide. The Bible is so irrelevant, isn't it? Like, this is exactly what we do. Like, whether you think this story actually happened or not doesn't really even matter to me, because this story is exactly right. It's exactly true. And then God comes looking for them in the story, and he's walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and he doesn't see the man and his wife, and he's like, where are you? Like, what's going on? What did you do? He asked them. And as soon as he asked them, what did you do? Adam points and he says, the woman you gave me, right? Like, don't, wait. I got a reason. I got an excuse. There's an explanation for this. The woman you gave me. And Eve, she's like, the serpent you created. Like, it's not my fault. And look at how God responds. They had one rule. They had one thing that God asked him to trust them with. And they disobey, and there's all sorts of consequences, and their relationship with each other and the relationship with God's fractured. Genesis 3, chapter 21, here's how God responded. The Lord God made clothing from animal skins for Adam and his wife. This is the first act of generosity. God sacrifices something he created, something that belonged to him, something that mattered to him. They disobeyed and they betrayed him, and he sacrificed. He clothes them and he covers them in the midst of their shame. Isn't it true? He didn't have to do that. Isn't it true? That was not necessary. Isn't it true? That was above and beyond. And isn't that exactly how we describe generosity? When somebody's generous and they're specifically generous to us, we think, wow, they didn't have to do that. That was not necessary. That was above and beyond. Turns out God was the one who set the standard for generosity. And that's the way we describe it to this day. Now, this is where Cain and Abel got the idea. This is why they're making sacrifices. It may seem strange to us, but they're making sacrifices in response out of their own gratitude to the generosity of God to them, which this is the first element. This is what they're giving from. Their sacrifices, their giving, their generosity, their offerings toward God are out of response. They're a reaction to something that God did for them. It didn't start on their own. They didn't come up with this idea of we're going to be generous. They decided out of gratitude, out of what, sorry, I have to stop to write, out of what God had done to them. They're responding out of gratitude. Now, it's them realizing something that we often forget. It's realizing that everything we have is a gift. Think about this. My life is a gift. My health is a gift. My relationships are a gift. My talents and abilities are a gift. The opportunities that I have are a gift. My work is a gift. The resources I have are a gift. The genesis of generosity is not giving to, but being given to. That's where generosity comes from. That's the inception of it. That's the beginning of generosity. Have you ever thought about this? This is sort of a sobering thought. Have you ever thought when especially when you feel like you're really generous and you've given something to somebody, have you ever given something to somebody and thought, man, that just feels really good? Do you know that everything you've ever given is a regift? It's a regift. It was given to you. It was given, you received it because of something that was given to you. Everything we've ever given, we've ever given to somebody else was something that had been given to us. And this is what we see the first humans doing. This is the genesis of generosity. They're giving from a heart of gratitude out of what's been given to them. And truly generous people, they realize most often they're the most grateful people. If you ever met somebody who's really generous, they're some of the most grateful people in the world. People can give them something big or small, and it doesn't matter. They're so grateful, and they're grateful for what's been entrusted to them. But one of the things that becomes true in this story is that not all sacrifices come from a truly grateful heart. Not all giving is from a truly grateful heart. Genesis chapter 4, the story goes on. Verse 4, the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. How dare God? He's judging their sacrifices? I mean, imagine somebody sees your offering or sees your giving and they're judging your giving, they're judging your sacrifice. But the truth is, this is about the giving with. I mean, we all give with different levels of resources, and we give of our treasure. And, you would say, nobody should judge somebody else's giving, but we do this all the time. I mean, you know this. I mean, think for a second. What makes a gift generous? If you just think for a minute, what makes a gift that somebody gives generous? I mean, there's lots of different things that are generous, but when you think about gifts that are truly generous, it's relative, isn't it? I mean, you think there are different gifts that people give, and some are more generous than others, and you think that. You think it because of the capacity of the person. So when you think about how we measure generosity, oftentimes, initially, we think about the quantity. We think about how much has been given. Do you know what's interesting? We don't know the size of what they gave. We don't know the amount. It's not even told to us in the story. We don't know what was given or what was sacrificed. And isn't it true that the size of a gift could be generous for one person but not another person? I heard this remarkable story. Last summer, some of you know, we had this amazing camp that we do in the summer for high school students. It's called IO Daytona, or Inside Out Daytona. We take a bunch of students down to the beach, and there was one of our high school students, had a burden, had been praying, actually had his whole group, had his leaders praying for one of his friends. And this kid himself had come to faith, had come to church, and his life had been changed dramatically because of what he had experienced at Inside Out. And he had a friend that wasn't a church kid. He wasn't a Jesus follower, and he really wanted his friend to be able to come to camp. And at this point, he didn't know anything about scholarships. He didn't know we did scholarships as a church. He didn't know that other people gave money so that we could scholarship kids to church. So he decided to camp. So he decided he was going to work extra shifts. He worked extra shifts, and he worked a lot at the beginning of the summer to work up and have enough money so that he could pay hundreds of dollars that he decided he was going to pay so his friend could go to camp. He knew his parents wouldn't pay it, and he knew that his friend's parents wouldn't pay it. So he took it on himself, and I thought, that's extraordinarily generous. It's unbelievably generous for him. But if you met somebody who made 7 figures and their kids have been involved in our student program and it impacted their life in a significant way, and you ask them, hey, would you be willing to give some money so a kid could go to IO Daytona for camp? And they said, yeah, I'll pay for one kid. You would think, that's not extraordinarily generous. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. That's amazing that you did that. But in comparison, and so we think about that and we think, what's so bad about God judging? And what's interesting about this is God's not judging because of the amount. He's judging because one of those gifts involves sacrifice and one doesn't. One talks about how important something is. One, and it's simply because of the percentage. It's because of the percentage of the giving. Percentage. The truth is our giving is It's related to our capacity. Our generosity is related to our capacity. And the thing is while we don't know how much they gave, we do learn something significant from their gifts. In the story, we were told that Abel gave some of the firstborn, of the first fruits. Abel gave his first and best. He gave the fat portions from the firstborn. And he was giving not just out of percentage, he was giving out of priority. He was given out of priority to God first. And this is why his gift or his offering, it honored God. It prioritized him. Now, Cain gave some of the fruits, we're told. And he made sure he had enough for himself first, and then maybe he gave some of his leftovers. But he certainly didn't give out of priority. He didn't give his first and best like Abel did, which leads to the third element of generosity. There's giving from, there's giving with, and there's giving to. And the truth is when we give, there's always an object of our giving. And for some of us, you give to your local church. Others of you have things that you have a heart for, that you have passions for, that you give toward, which I think is amazing. There's so many things. In fact, in our world, because of Christians like you, most of the philanthropy, most of the things that happen in our world that impact people who are most need come from the generosity of people. And what's interesting is when we first find Cain and Abel, they're making sacrifices to God, which seems a little strange, but this is the nature of life. We all make sacrifices. And some of you choose to make sacrifices because of the things you see around you. But you do this on a regular basis in life too. You do this in your life. We all make sacrifices in terms of our time and our talents and our treasures. We make sacrifices in terms of when and where to invest in life. And Abel, he decided to sacrifice his first and best for God. And Cain, he reserved his first and best for himself. His treasure was truly out of gratitude. I mean, his treasure, the treasure that Abel gave with, it was a priority percentage and it was aimed towards God. Cain, his was toward himself. It wasn't towards God. It was sort of out of greed. It wasn't out of gratitude. And here's what we can all agree on. We all know that giving, true generosity isn't self-focused. You've seen this before. We see this, you see this on TV. You see this, unfortunately, in our political system. You see people oftentimes talk about their generosity, and it's about getting attention on themselves. And the truth is true generosity, we all know this, and we all agree this. True generosity chooses self-sacrifice, and this is what we see them doing at the beginning, self-sacrifice over self-interest. When we put ourselves first in our giving, that's not generosity. That's with us having something to gain is the reality. And we see Cain and Abel, and they're making sacrifices. And there's a direct relationship, and this is where I want to come back. There's a direct relationship between our giving, the target of our giving, and our heart. And this is what Jesus taught. He said, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. Where your treasure is, your heart follows that, not the other way around. And this is why Cain's offering was unfavorable. If you miss everything else, this is why God looked at Cain's offering as unfavorable, is because it wasn't good for him. It wasn't good for himself. It wasn't good for his family. It wasn't good for his heart. And this is why embracing the true value of generosity, this is why it's an inflection point. Don't miss this. This is why things shift. They may not shift initially, but when you choose to take the focus off of self and give towards God and others, when we try to sacrifice, because this is what we do, right? We try to sacrifice the right things for the right reasons and for the right people at the right time so that things will go well for us. We do this in life so they'll go favorably, so that we'll prosper. This is what Solomon said, which is exactly what happens in business. It's what happens in marriage. It's what happens in parenting. It's what happens in friendship. When you give, when you sacrifice the right things, things go well for you. When you begin to sacrifice for yourself, even if things are going well, you may not realize it at first, but when you start, and some of you remember back to a time in your life when you started to prioritize self. I can tell you a story. I can tell you stories But early on in my 20s, I remember when life became all about me, and it affected all of my relationships. It affected my career. It affected lots of things in my life, and I didn't experience it at the beginning. The truth is it can happen negatively as well as positively. We see this in their lives. And when self is first, things come to ruin. This is certainly true for Cain. And eventually, it's exactly what Solomon said. It's what Solomon says happened. You remember the verse we started with, a generous person will prosper. I want to back up just one verse. This is what he said. Look at this. He said, one person gives freely, yet gains even more. Some of you have experienced this. You've given freely to somebody and you've gained even more. When you give freely to people, you've gained maybe financially, but maybe not. Maybe as you gave and you decided to sacrifice for somebody else, you began to get something different in return in your career or in your relationships and maybe even in your finances. You were open-handed and generally sacrificed for somebody else, maybe for God. And you gained favor. Things went favorably for you. But another person withholds unduly and comes to poverty, or another way to translate this word unduly is disproportionately. And the truth is they come to poverty, which is another way of saying they lack. And oftentimes this is what we experience. We withhold and we try to get for ourselves, and the more we try to get to ourselves, the more we want for more, because more is insatiable. The desire for more is insatiable. And things come to ruin, like they did for Cain. That's what this word poverty means. Things become unraveled. They become destroyed in our lives. And Cain, he continued to live with this scarcity mindset. God was generous towards him, but he continued to protect himself and the people around him. He continued to prioritize himself and sacrifice for himself first. As a matter of fact, God decided to protect him, and he decided, well, if God's gonna protect me, I'm gonna protect my family. I'm not gonna trust God to protect my family. And he decided to threaten people, that if anybody touched his family, because he was afraid of Abel's family taking revenge against his family. And he became so self-focused and inward focused that eventually his family came to ruin. As a matter of fact, if you read the story, all the way down the line, there was a guy named Tubal-Cain that was in his family line. And he's credited with the first weapons of war. And this is what had become of the world, of the first kids of the first family of the world. And particularly for Cain, it was the antithesis of what Solomon said would happen if you're generous. A generous man will prosper. And he went on, he said this, and whoever refreshes others will themselves be refreshed. And Cain didn't get this. Cain decided he was going to be for himself. He was going to try to prosper and not to be generous, to make sure that he and his family had and maintained what they had. And here's the truth is in my experience, people who are truly generous financially, relationally, in terms of their forgiveness, those people are refreshing to be around, aren't they? They seem to live with more freedom, a deeper sense of purpose, a greater degree of peace. They are not just more generous in their finances, they're more generous with their time, with their expertise, with their forgiveness, with their patience, with their criticisms, with their characterizations of others. Generosity, specifically financially, when we're grateful for what we've been given and we're truly generous with what we have and to others, to God and others, when it's not about ourselves, the truth is we begin to be more generous in all areas of our lives. And everybody has their struggles. But the truth is the people that I know that are truly generous, they're also prospering. I mean, it's exactly what Solomon said. They're not just prospering in their finances. They're prospering in their marriage. They're prospering in their parenting. They're prospering in their friendships and their influence. And all of these things are on the other side of this curve. I mean, this is the hard part. Is these difficult decisions, and whether you're going to be generous to the church, that's not my point. Whether you're going to be generous to the church or not is irrelevant. When you choose to be a truly generous person in every area of your life, you don't immediately experience the benefits. As a matter of fact, if you're experiencing a downward trend in some area of your life and you decide, I'm going to be truly generous, I'm going to start being generous, the truth is it takes time for that curve to rebound. But all the benefits of generosity are on the other side of that inflection point. The other side of the inflection point, the choice to become generous. Now, I want to conclude with two things today. I do want to talk specifically about the Deeper, Wider initiative. Some of you have experienced this. In fact, I've heard your stories. You've told us about stories of choosing to trust God and choosing to prioritize Him and how God has shown up in your finances. And here's what I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you today, if you'll choose to make a commitment and you'll choose to give, that God will make you rich. I don't believe that. But here's what I do believe. I do believe that if you choose to be generous, and this is one way, this deeper, wider commitment, choosing to fill out a commitment card, whether you're beginning your generosity journey, whether you're continuing in your generosity journey, or whether you're deepening your generosity journey, I believe it could create a new inflection point in your life, maybe in your finances, but for sure with your heart. Because where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. That's what Jesus taught us. And you know what's also interesting? There's only one area in the whole Bible. We're told that we're not to test God. There's only one area we're told that we're able to test God, and it's in the area of our finances. You should consider a 1-year test. For some of you, you've never chose to give. You never chose to prioritize God by making a sacrifice with your giving, sacrificing a portion of what He's already given to you back to Him as He's instructed you to do. Here's what I'd say to you. You should test Him. This Deeper, Wider initiative is one opportunity. It's not the only opportunity. In fact, if your big pushback is, they're just trying to get money for their church, I mean, we're doing some big things and we're impacting people all over the world. But if you're skeptical about that, give it somewhere else. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you're free, that you're not owned by your stuff, that you own stuff. You're not owned by your stuff. And that you experience the freedom, you experience the benefits, you experience the prosperity that's on the other side of generosity. Now, last thing I want to talk about before we finish is some of you are arguing with me in your mind. You're sitting here and you've got an objection and you're like, I can't believe he's skipping over this. And here's your objection. Your objection is Abel died. Right? He was the guy that made the right sacrifices. He died. Does this preacher not know what happened to Abel? He died. He's the one that's favored by God. And God let his brother kill him. Here's what's interesting about the story, is that is true. And God gifted Adam and Eve with another son. Anybody know his name? Seth. We do have some people that read their Bible. It's amazing. Seth. Seth means in place of. Seth was God's righteous replacement for Abel. Anybody know the next story in the Bible? Today's Bible quiz day, by the way, if you didn't know that. Anybody know the next story in the Bible? After all the calamity, all the things went wrong in the world, everything that happened with Cain's family, the next story in the Bible is the flood. The flood represents God's judgment. And God decides to spare humanity through Noah. He's the only one that's righteous. Noah came in the line of Seth, but it was Abel's legacy. Seth was the righteous replacement of Abel, who came to ultimately spare and rescue humanity, God's grace, his generosity, humanity, even though it continued to turn its back on him. Which leads me to the reason that we should be the most grateful and most generous people in all of our communities, is because that's what God did for you and for me. If you're here today and you're here for the first time and you're like, this, I did not expect this, a generosity talk, a giving talk from a church, well, maybe I did expect that. That's exactly what I expected. Here's what I want you to know. We don't want anything from you. We want something for you. Here's what I want for you. I want you to experience the generosity and the grace of God. And the truth is, if you didn't know it, God sent a righteous replacement for you in Jesus. And in his generosity, he sent his first and his best as a sacrifice for you and for me, so that we could prosper in this world, in this life, and in the life to come. And here's my prayer. Wherever you are, whether you're somebody who's beginning your generosity journey, you're continuing in it, you're looking to deepen in it, here's my hope, is that your life, that our lives, that as a church, we would reflect the generous heart of our God who set the standard. In the very beginning, he set the standard when humanity didn't deserve it. When he rescued humanity when things had all come in unraveled. And eventually when we proved, even with the law, we couldn't do it on our own, he sent a righteous replacement for us to rescue us, to be generous toward us. My prayer is that out of gratitude to him, with grateful hearts for what we've been given, we would choose to take a percentage or a portion of what he's entrusted to us and make it a priority to give back to God and to give to those people around us, that people would see our generosity and it would point towards our Father in heaven. And it would be true generosity that would be about self-sacrifice, not self-interest. We wouldn't do it to be seen by other people. We would do it so that our Father in heaven would be seen by them and be drawn to them. Let me pray for you. God, thank you for your truth. Thank you for these really old stories that oftentimes reflect the truest things about our world and the truest things about our lives and the truest thing about our path. And the truth is after sin entered the world, things were no longer ideal. And the two lives of these two young men represent the two paths that we choose from in life. One involves self-sacrifice and reflects you and your heart and your message and your gospel. The other path reflects self-interest. And it leads to things that many of us have experienced that we needed rescue from. Thank you for the reminder today that neither one, Cain nor Abel's sacrifice, was able to rescue them, but that you sent another one. You sent Seth as a righteous replacement in the same way you sent Jesus to rescue us. So may we not be motivated by guilt or because there's some cosmic power that's out to get us if we don't become generous or give first. But maybe we be people who are truly motivated out of hearts of gratitude for what you've done for us, to want to reflect your generosity to the people around us in this world. So many would find and discover the grace of Jesus that we've all been blessed with. And it's your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, next week, we're continuing our series, Inflection Point, and Andy's going to be back with another significant inflection point that has nothing to do with money. So you'll be happy about that, and you're not going to want to miss that. Until then, let's not just go out and be people that attend church on the weekend and go out in the community. Let's be generous people, and let's be the church where we live, work, and play. And we'll see you all next week right back here at your local church. You're dismissed.
I just want to be someone. Dive and disappear without a trace. I just want to be someone. Well, doesn't everyone? And if you feel